I would like to say welcome and thank you for joining us today. Let me just jump into my slides so that you can understand what we're doing today. So just a quick note, we're going to be recording today's session and hope to have it available to you if you're interested in following up afterward. We hope that recording's okay with you. And I'll remind you a couple of times during the session, but if it's possible for you to leave an email in the chat for us, that way afterward, we'll be able to follow up with you and share information. So just a quick rundown of what we're planning on doing today during this hour-long session. We'd like to introduce you to an initiative that we're working on called Global Movement. We'll start by introducing ourselves and asking each of you to do the same. Next, we're going to introduce you to the initiative and how it's already supporting the work of 3 business schools. After that, we're going to break out into smaller groups, and we're going to play that by ear by the number of attendees to discuss the particulars of the initiative and the work that's already happening at the business schools around the world. We hope to keep the breakouts to about 10 minutes or so, and then we'll wrap up back up together. So, what I'd like to do is, if it's possible, can I ask everybody to introduce themselves and let us know why you're here and how we can make this a great session for you. I'm happy to start. My name is James Weichert. I'm the project manager of Global Movement. I'm also a doctoral candidate and the founder of livingconservancy.org. Professor Stoner, do you want to continue?
And you're going to do your doctorate on transforming economics teaching and research, I hope. I'm Jim Stoner. I'm at Fordham University. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm here to see what I can learn about what you all are doing and interested in, and to share what we're doing. Ray, you want to go next? I see you there.
Sure, I'm here. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Ray Andre. I'm retired from Northeastern University. I'm an author, an activist in climate change. Climate all the time is my thing. And I have a new book coming out called Lead for the Planet, 5 Practices for Confronting Climate Change, published by the University of Toronto Press. It's academic as well as a trade book, and I hope you'll read it and buy it. And come to my session tomorrow if you want to hear more about that. I also have an article coming out in the Journal of Management Education entitled Teaching Climate Leadership, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I will also be speaking at the Academy of Management on the contents of the book. So I hope you'll teach a course in climate leadership. I hope you'll consider my book. Even if you're only teaching a course on leadership, my book is short, a couple hundred pages, and it could be an accompaniment. It also makes a wonderful online course, absolutely wonderful, with great videos and great audios, and then there's the book. So thank you.
Thank you.
To be here.
Thank you very much. Who would like to go next?
Why don't you call on them? Why don't you call on them?
I'm just going to call out. So Morgane, why don't you say hello?
Yeah, hello everybody, nice to see you. I'm Morgane Fritz. I'm associate professor at La Rochelle Business School. And I joined this global movement together with James and Jim. And very happy to be part of it and to bring something from France to the movement.
Thank you very much. Gordon, do you want to just say a couple of words from MOBTC?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Gordon Schmidt, program chair for this conference. And so very interesting session, but I'm also helping facilitate and letting people in and stuff like that.
And thank you on behalf of everybody for all that you guys have done. Amazing.
Thanks. We're trying.
Julie Sedell.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julie. I'm with Colorado Mesa University in Grand Junction, Colorado. We're out on the western slope of Colorado, a little less populated out here. And I don't really know anything about this. When you just said www.globalmovement.net, that was the first time I heard that. And so I'm very intrigued about what it is that you're doing, and I hope to learn a lot.
Thank you so much. Linda, Irwin?
Unmuting. Hi, I'm Linda Irwin. I'm with the Anderson College of Business and Computing at Regis University in Denver. I'm here to learn what others are doing in this whole idea of changing the way we teach business in light of our changing world. And at Regis, I've been teaching, but also practicing and writing courses. And so this is a particularly good time for me as I'm looking at changing a couple of courses and embedding some of these ideas in the courses that I'm writing.
Great. Thank you. Ken, I don't think I asked you to speak yet. Why don't you introduce yourself as well?
Sure. Thanks, James. I'm Ken Sagendorf. I'm also from Regis University in Denver, Colorado with Linda. I am the director of our Innovation Center, and as of like last week, I'm also directing our MBA program. I got involved with Jim early on in this movement as we really were putting together, we had the opportunity to put together a brand new business school 5 or 6 years ago, and really we're challenged to create a different kind of business school. And hopefully today in our conversations, we can share a little bit of all the positive movement and all the distraction from positive movement that has occurred over that time.
Thank you. Jennifer Lee.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Lee, and I work at Nazareth College, which is located in Rochester, New York, on the same lake as Toronto. And I am a responsible management educator enthusiast. Looking forward to your session.
Thank you so much. Rachel Ellsworth.
Hi, I'm not teaching right now. I'm hoping to be a doctoral candidate soon. I'm here to support Jim and all he does, and I'm interested in the topic, and I hope that that's what I end up studying.
Thank you very much.
And you're doing your dissertation on yoga and sustainability, perhaps?
That's my plan. That's my plan. So some link thereof, some link.
Thank you very much. Akin Falade?
Yes, I'm just thrilled to be here. I'm a first year DBA student from St. Mary's, University of Minnesota, so just here to listen and just enjoy the section. So,
thank you so much for joining us. I see somebody, but I don't see a name attached, and you have a beautiful background of a mountain.
Luis Gerardo.
Hi, I'm Luis Gerardo from Mexico. I teach in Tec de Monterrey in the business school, and I'm part of a group of professors that are working on issues regarding business consciousness or conscious business. And we're trying to introduce these topics in the different subjects in our business school. I teach OB, leadership, also organizational culture, things like that. So I always try to introduce these concepts of the impact that business, the positive impact that businesses can have in the world. So I'm looking forward to whatever you are going to share with us and be part of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we've got one more, Nicole Jackson.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Hello.
I'm out in California. I'm still very sleepy. That's why I don't have my video on. I had a conference about 2 weeks ago, the Triple Helix, that was in Finland, and that was 10 hours ahead. And I had to give a presentation at 4 a.m. in the morning, and my goodness, that was something else. Anyway, so I teach strategy, OB, HR. I'm at Menlo College, right, like about 5 minutes away from Stanford University. I'm actually interested in higher education disruption. and newer models of delivery. You know, some of the statistics that we see from the Chronicle of Higher Education are, for example, that 90% of colleges and universities will not exist in their current form probably about 3 decades from now. So what does that mean for us? Obviously, you know, we'll always need professors and students, but what newer education models do we need to build? How is that going to speak to the marketplace dynamic? Is it going to be more consortia? We see lower area, you know, barriers to entry in terms of digital transformation technologies. You know, who's going to be the Amazon of the higher education space? So that's what I'm currently working on, and I have a couple of things coming out. I just published a piece in Business and Society in their blog about reorganizing business education around impact factors. I'm happy to share that afterwards, and then some other piece, you know, another article that's going to be that I'm working on in terms of looking at sociological framing. And so that's that. But I'm very curious to see what you have to say. I also have a session later this afternoon that's going to be exploring the COVID effect and the redesign on business schools. So I would love to have everybody join us then with my co-author, Linda Dunn Jensen. That's it.
Thank you so much. So of the people that you've met, some of them are team members on this initiative, and I should call them out. Professor Jim Stoner, Professor Morgane Fritz, Ken Sagendorf, Linda Irwin. Those are the people that are here. We have some other team members who are not able to join us today. But just so you know, those are the sort of the point people. Everybody has a different perspective on it. They're coming at it from a different angle. So I think the best thing for me to do is first, let me just show you a little bit about this initiative, and then we'll jump into hold on 1 second. We'll jump into the individual business schools. So the initiative is global movement, is supporting business schools seeking to transform their business education to meet the needs of a sustainable, regenerating, and flourishing world. We hope to shift business schools away from the business as usual mindsets and practices that are socially unjust and are destroying the planet's capacity to support our own and other species. We believe that our initiative is a part of a larger movement. Our initiative is emergent and evolving. We believe it can be best described in Bob Quinn's words as building the bridge as we walk on it. We know where we want to go, and our strategy is to find out how to get there simply by engaging in the process of getting there. So what I'm going to do now is to pass this over to Morgane. And Morgane, give me just 1 second. I'm going to set up your, there it is.
Slides?
Yep. Are you looking at the slides right now, or are you looking at, no, that's not where we want to be.
I'm seeing you.
You're seeing me. Well, that's a beautiful thing. So now let me introduce Morgane's slides, and that way, no. All right. Here we go.
Thank you. Okay, so we can go already to the first slide. So I'm representing La Rochelle Business School. I joined the school in 2018, so I'm quite young there. But I joined the school because it's one of the business schools, if not the unique one in France, that is really engaged towards sustainability and CSR and business ethics in general. So the school is the first one in France who developed a Master of Science in Sustainable Development for students studying management. So they are really sensitive to this topic. And several students just choose the school because of that. We have several programs that we called Humacité, like we could say Humacity, and soon will come Climacité, so focusing on climate. These are programs where students volunteer, for instance, abroad, and they learn a lot, and they are totally changed when they come back from these experiences. We are now in the phase of developing our strategy 2025. And we want to reinforce this positioning. We were one of the pioneers, and we want to be that again, and to enhance our positioning regarding sustainability teaching, CSR teaching, and business ethics. So this is really in our DNA. It's part of our syllabuses. We all have, in all of our programs and courses, we have a learning goal focusing ethics and CSR. So there's really everywhere in the school and in most of the teaching. I think we have about a third of all our teachers working on sustainability topic. So I would be happy to talk more about that later on. But on the next slide, you'll see we have also sustainability report. It's bilingual in French and English, and you can access it via the link here. And on the next slide, you also have one of the first sustainability reports together with Fordham University and Regis, showing what we have done in the past 3 months and showing what we plan to do in the future. So you'll see different initiatives regarding the lectures, regarding research, regarding conferences, and other plans starting from September on. So that's it from my side. Yeah, let's
Thank you.
the others present their example. Thank you.
Let me pass it over to James Stoner, Chair of Global Sustainability at Fordham University's Gabelli School of Business. And Professor Stoner, if you can talk for a second while I do my technology.
Okay, fine. If you let me cheat for a minute before I start my 3 minutes, I will make an overall statement to the audience that each school is posting on our website a report of what's happened in the last 3 months and what might happen in the next 3 months that would be interesting to people who are doing exactly what we're doing, which is transforming our curriculum and some of our research. And you'll see mine from my school in a moment, but you just saw a little hint of the one from Morgane School. We don't expect you to look at those. We just want you to know they exist. Okay, now you can start my 3 minutes, okay?
Okay, here's your 3 minutes. I'm giving it to you right now.
There's our report. And don't try and read it. Just, you can get it on the website. I've got 10 items to try and cover in 3 minutes. First of all, we're new in this process, as all the schools are. I'm not even sure all our faculty know what we're doing, but our dean is committed, and we're making great progress. It's been a lot of fun. We have a introductory to management course that will be taught in the fall that's fully aligned with the need for sustainability. And that will be taught to all the undergraduate students and probably the graduate students. We have an introductory to finance course that's fully aligned with sustainability, taught by, but this is an intro course. He's been taught by Frank Werner for maybe a decade as an advanced course. We have maybe an accounting course fully aligned with the need for a sustainable world that might be offered in the fall, but probably in the spring. We have an introductory to finance textbook, which says the purpose of the firm is not to maximize shareholder wealth, and that the neoliberal narrative is not going to work for us, and etc. So it's quite revolutionary. It's physically available, I believe, this week, and it's also available through the internet. We have a dean who's fully committed to what we're doing, and Michael Pearson is a wonderful member of our faculty. They are both on a Jesuit task force, which is thinking beyond Jesuit education as it designs a new paradigm for education aligned with the need for a sustainable world. Number 7, we have some interesting student research coming up, and all of these are cited. You can get to them from our website. We're going to pick James's brain for teaching economics in a sustainable way. Finally, the Journal of Management for Global Sustainability is eager for articles from you all about what you're doing to transform your curriculum and the kinds of ideas you have for creating a sustainable world. Hi, am I okay in 3 minutes?
You've got it. You've got another minute. You're shooting the moon here.
Okay, good. I'll pass that on to Linda and Ken. I'm sure I'll intervene a couple times.
Yeah, why don't we just do Linda Irwin and Ken Sagendorf, professors at Regis University Anderson College of Business and Computing. And I'm just going to keep the slides up for a second. So why don't you both talk, and then we'll come back together and explain why these sustainability reports are so important for the initiative.
Ken,
go ahead, Linda.
Go ahead.
Yep.
Unmuting both of us at the same time can create all kinds of chaos. I'll just jump in by saying that I was pleased to draft this first report because one of the benefits for me was I really learned a lot about what's going on in our own college and what people are thinking and what people want to do. In our first report, you'll see a number of courses in the marketing sphere because Jim was kind enough to meet with several of us, a year or so ago, that when we were talking about changing our curriculum, and the marketing group were one of the first to jump on and start making changes in our courses. So those show up in some of the first reports here. But as I drafted the material together to put this report together, I was really excited to learn how many other things were taking place, either in practice already or in ideas that my colleagues are talking about doing. But I think perhaps maybe the most important thing on our report is that with Ken's new role as heading up the reformation of our MBA program, I'm looking at this getting extended significantly across the MBA and hopefully in some of the other programs. So with that, I'll flip it back to Ken.
Well, thanks, Linda. Yeah, I think it is pretty exciting to figure out all the stuff that is going on from different people where we don't often talk about this because many of us are trying to sneak some of this in. And really, the global movement is about getting out from under the rock of sneaking this in and being pretty overt with it. A couple things that I'll just mention that are on our report that I shared with folks this morning was we wrote a book. And so, Nicole, this maybe in your lane, called Regenerative Urban Development, Climate Change, and the Common Good. And in that book is a chapter that I wrote about changing the way we do education. And so, you know, this part of this global movement conversation is both a how and what conversation. What do we need to change and how do we change it? And I think that those are as Jim said, we're building this bridge as we walk over it. But I want to talk about that book a little bit and then a bunch of experimental courses. The nice thing about being a professor where you run a center is you get some freedom out of that center to be able to offer experimental courses and learn from those and then seep them into the rest of the curriculum. And so as Linda mentioned, the MBA program, one of the very first things we'll be doing is creating the intro course, which is a systems thinking course so that people can understand how these things connect.
Thank you very much. That's great. All right, let me get out of this. And
we want to invite Bruce Hansen to introduce himself. He just arrived.
Oh, Jim, how are you? Here, I'll.
We're saying briefly who we are and where we're from and why we're here.
Ah.
And you got one minute or less.
Oh, Bruce Hansen. This is my first day as an emeritus professor. So my first day I'm out in Concordia University in California. And see why I'm here. Let me see. Well, it's been a long time. This is a whole different venue, isn't it, Jim? From the face to face. There's some of the folks I recognize, and many are new. I come occasionally to OBTC, and so this is great to be in the V.
Thank you. And Ken, have you had a chance?
Yes, we spoke.
Okay, fine. Now back to you, James.
Yes, I did.
So the sustainability reports are a part of the initiative that allows us to share what's working best at the individual schools, and we can learn from one another. And the other remarkable thing that happened when we were initially talking about putting sustainability reports together was to discover exactly how much was already going on at the individual schools. And so Professor Stoner, could you talk to that just for a second to talk about how reaching out and finding a sustainability coordinator and that whole process at the individual schools?
Sure. And as Linda mentioned, and by the way, our experience when we joined the Ashoka Changemaker Campus Initiative, just like Linda's, we found out a lot of things going on that nobody knew was going on, including each other. And so we got people connected who were doing really good stuff, but they didn't know the person next door was doing really good stuff. So it turns out to be a really exciting thing to start doing. We're walking on the bridge as we build it. That's a quote from Bob Quinn's wonderful book, Deep Change. And it came up when he was asking somebody about a great strategy the company had. And they said, basically, we're kind of walking on the bridge as we build it. We're doing the same thing, and we're finding our way as we go. It's a very exciting time for us. And that's pretty much what occurs to me to say. James, can I put it back to you?
Well, so when we originally reached out to the individual schools, we initially spoke to the deans, but then very soon, we don't want to take up the dean's time. The dean has too much on their plate already. So who in your university or school would be a good person to coordinate with? And in many schools, that's a role that doesn't yet exist. But it serves an important function by letting the school know internally all of the sustainability work that's going on, and then allows us to disseminate that information with other schools.
You said very nicely what you set me up to say. Thank you. Okay. Should we throw it open to folks throwing in a dialogue now? Or do you want to break into?
I don't think we have enough people to do a breakout room. So I think let's all stay in plenary together, unless you feel otherwise. There's a couple of different ways we can go. But I think first, I'd love to get a little bit of feedback and see where we go from here.
And I'd like us to hold our comments to 2 minutes at most, given we're professors, and that's not easy to do. Okay, Nicole Jackson raised her hand, I see. Go ahead, Nicole.
So I think this sounds great. I'm interested also in looking at where the business school, rather than just being more descriptive and capturing what we need to fill in as far as the gaps, can take more of a proactive and activist role in societal change. Because I think that oftentimes we have this level of neutrality, right? We're supposed to, I mean, obviously we do research and what have you, but I'm wondering how much of this have you been looking at in terms of informing policy at a local, regional, maybe even a national or international level? Because that's kind of where I'm headed with my work. It's not just looking at, descriptively speaking, where the changes need to take place, but also where that could potentially even inform government policy. So I was kind of curious if anybody's doing work in that area, or if you have considered that, or is it just more of a consortia, or any of the number of the above?
I'm a little bit afraid of jumping in as a Q&A because I talk a lot. And I think Ray Andre will have a lot to say on this topic. But let me chip in one thing. For my school, we've decided that the absolutely perfect leverage point is the core required courses across the curriculum. They teach and set up the mindset, the business as usual mindset across the curriculum in every one of the courses in reality. And we feel that we change that, then everything else is going to fall into place pretty easily. The great thing about advanced courses in sustainability is they give us some leverage on doing that. But the key thing is changing the core course. That's just our approach. It may not be the best approach. It may not be a good approach. But the beauty of that approach is that every member of the faculty who has some reasonable job security, like tenure or whatever, can change his or her course today. We can align the course with the realities of the 21st century and the need for a sustainable world, and stop teaching courses that are appropriate for the 19th and 20th century. Mm-hmm. So in terms of being activists, the beauty of the approach we like, it may not be the best approach, it's just our approach, but the beauty of it is absolutely everybody can be a leader. Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm.
Ken?
Jim, let me jump in and add, kind of a different approach that we took in the Anderson College at Regis. If you're with me long enough, you'll hear me say things like students experience 3 curricula in their education. They experience the curriculum, the core courses, as Jim mentioned. They experience a co-curriculum, which if done well is intentionally designed to take the parts of the curriculum and put it into practice so that it gets reinforced over time. And if you're lucky enough to do doctoral education, you experience lots of extra curriculum. That's the time when you end up in a bar, overheated conversation around your field. And that's where things get cemented and your beliefs and values around your field really grow and deepen. No institution really wants to touch the extra curriculum anymore, but the co-curriculum is really ripe. And so we did our approach at the beginning, which I will agree with Jim. It's not necessarily the best approach because we learned a whole lot by trial by fire. But we developed 3 centers which were meant to push this exact question. So Nicole, as an example, for us hosting a gentrification conference in the city of Denver, where we're bringing developers, community members, and policymakers into conversation over 3 days, to figure out how to find solutions together is part of what we do from the centers. And part of this is the professors are busy teaching their courses, writing their courses, trying to put this stuff into their courses, but we have to model for the students more than the courses. And so I think, having an approach of a both and is just something to consider that we found to be fruitful.
Yeah, and Jim, did you say that you were at Fordham? Okay, I used to work at University of San Francisco, which is a Jesuit-based institution, and one of the areas that I looked at is community engaged practice. How does that have to be increasingly embedded in the curriculum, not just not just in terms of job preparation, but also looking at how it informs these concepts and theories, especially as we're shifting into less and less of a linear ecosystem-driven world, right? Where we have so many complex problems that the students need to confront, and how do we make them more critical realists, placing them in the context of these experiences. So anyway.
Thank you.
I can add something to this point, because we have a kind of a different approach. It's not only related to the global movement, but more to how we teach and how we do research at La Rochelle. And we use a lot. We have an institute focusing on sustainability that uses a lot of action research. So we work together with businesses, but also with policymakers, and we are working on integrating also the local communities, the local authorities in our teaching program. So next semester, students following the Bachelor of Business program, for instance, will have a few days to spend at the local authority to study topics related to environmental management, for instance. So we have this kind of things in place, and we also have researchers involved in giving advice or contributing to the improvement of norms like the ISO 26000 that you may know. They take part to such kind of meetings that really inform policymakers or other groups than just academic or students.
I guess I'll jump in for 1 second and just say, we've put together a video that's sort of our pitch, if you will. And in that video, we ask 4 basic questions, which is, what kinds of people will flourish in a sustainable, regenerating, and flourishing world? How do we become those kinds of people? What changes need to happen to our producing, distributing, and consuming systems? How do we get there? And I think our philosophy, or what guides us, is the idea that business schools have served as incubators of change in the past. So to answer those questions, business schools are a great location to try new ideas and to process through to come up with better solutions to the problems we face.
And if I can piggyback on that, James, nobody on this planet really knows how to do the changes we need to make. We have some ideas, some people have good ideas, but the reason why our initiative is intended to have 40 business schools, each operating on their own, and it's from what Morgane has just said and what I've said and what Linda and Ken said, you can see that we're different circumstances. We have different schools. And so rather than saying, this is how 40 business schools and then later on 400 business schools should change their curriculum, we've said, each school find out by yourself how to do it, share it, learn from each other, and your goal really is to teach the world how we can bring about these changes. And it'll be different from some schools to other schools. Period. Ray, I see Ray's hand. I was just going to turn to Ray and then to, I can't see who's to your left.
Jennifer.
Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. Ray, I was going to turn to you because I know you've been working in this area very successfully, and I'm really looking forward to your session on Thursday.
Thank you, Jim. Me too. I wish somebody would organize it. It'll be very interesting. I hope. I've seen some great sessions, better organized than I am. But part of the reason I'm not organized is this is a very complex problem. It's hard as hell to get this all organized. I think one litmus test for me is what exactly are we teaching and from what values? So are we teaching strong sustainability or weak sustainability? How many of you have heard the term strong versus weak sustainability? Please raise your hand. See, not everybody. The work is from Nancy Landrum, Landrum, most recently, who has measured what business schools and businesses are teaching and doing on this spectrum. Weak sustainability, and it builds on work by Roome, R-O-O-M-E, who introduced, to my knowledge, that term strong versus weak. And it's just an easy way of saying that weak sustainability is sustainability for the company with a little greening that helps it. And strong sustainability is sustainability for the planet. So point A, I think that's very important for us all to understand, and I constantly build on and use those terms. And I try to hold everybody I talk to accountable for moving to strong sustainability for the planet. So when I hear all of you talk, I assume and hope that we share the same values, but I think when we look at a university program, we have to be sure that we're not just talking the talk, we're walking the walk. I especially like what Ken was saying about, that professors are walking the walk through your gentrification conference in Denver. That's fascinating and great stuff. So one of the things I try to do with my students is to give them an appreciation for the role of business in society. So business versus government, business with government, because it's through government that these values, through democratic government in particular, that these values are going to be implemented. So I always bring that into my work. I also bring in the institutional relationships, fossil fuel companies versus green companies, and the sectors that they represent. But more than anything, I think what's new about my work is I'm bringing in the social science. And nobody has looked at the social science broadly on this. So for example, did I get my 2 minutes yet, Jim? I see you looking.
We're giving you a little extra. Keep going.
So for example, and this is maybe the most controversial thing that I'm going to start saying, and don't hit me when I say it, please. The social science suggests that cooperation is not going to get this done. So, world governments aren't going to cooperate. We know that Paris has failed to get people to cooperate and get things done. It's very nice. We're all talk, but we're no action, because we don't believe that there's going to be a superordinate organization that we trust to help us to do this.
Thank you.
So then the question is, what else? And that's one of the things I'm trying to address.
So let me pass this on. I've got a couple of raised hands. The whole board went boof when you started speaking. So let me start with Linda, and then we'll move on to Nicole.
Well, you prompted a couple of things with me, Ray, because I'm in the midst of rewriting this course. And so just personal experience, what I found is a lot of great research, a lot of information out there, but if you're writing a course, there's no textbook that is strong sustainability. There's good information about weak and strong, but how do you translate that into the subject matter? And I also kept thinking when I was developing the material, okay, so I'm out on a limb and I'm putting this information together and I'm creating things for the students to consider. But I had to recognize maybe the social science that you're talking about. The students aren't living in that kind of business environment today, right? And so how do we also expose them to new information and encourage them to recognize that, yeah, we get it, you're here, but you need to be here. And note that just because you're learning something that you don't see when you go to work every day doesn't invalidate it. And so there's all kinds of tensions that came up for me when I was going through this course development. And I think sharing those kinds of things with this weak and strong, it's the same kind of paradigm, right? It's like, okay, which side do you tilt things to? So just sort of sharing that, and then maybe this is the kind of forum, this is the kind of group that can help address those sorts of things.
One of my concerns is that our students, their awareness is being heightened of these things. And so they see that strong sustainability is needed. The logic is really clear. The science is really clear. And then they're walking into organizations that are pursuing weak sustainability. And there's going to be burnout, and there's going to be stress, all kinds of climate stress, we could call it. Well, that's maybe not the best thing to say, but I'm very concerned about that, and I think we need to address it. I do address it in my book based on Wright and Nyberg's work. On their book, what is it called? Capitalism and Climate Change or something, Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T. They mention this. They talk about this kind of stress. And as a psychologist, I work with that a little bit in this book. It definitely is going to need to be worked with. Thank you for your comment, Linda.
Thank you. So now let's go on to Nicole.
Make sure we get Jennifer too at some point.
We will get Jennifer.
No, this is all fantastic. I think just to build off of what I just heard, I think, it's also capturing how do we have to shift mindsets, right? So I find that a lot of the students are still kind of focused on, how do I plug into an organization? And if they can't necessarily resolve these issues, maybe they have to be more solo entrepreneurs in terms of how they're going to take on these issues themselves. So how are we training them for that capacity if they're not finding that? level of impact in the existing organizations to getting them toward a point where they want to be resourceful. I don't think that's just a question of just entrepreneurship education. Does that make sense? It's something that needs to be also embedded, where they can feel like they can take those risks and those experiments to deal with these tougher problems.
Thank you. Thank you. Jennifer?
Hi, it's been a really exciting conversation to have with people who are so passionate about these topics. I just had a couple resources that I wanted to recommend for the organizing network. Debbie Haskey-Leventhal just came out with a book called The Purpose-Driven University, and it might not work. Let me turn off my background. So it literally came out last week, and it profiles a number of universities around the world doing a variety of sustainable practices, depending upon your definition of sustainable. I haven't read all of the examples yet because I've been in virtual conferences like all of you, but I think it's maybe an opportunity for networking with some other institutions that are leading the charge, and it has many global examples. The other question I have for the group is, how is your network similar and different to the PRIME initiative? Because I wonder about the differentiation and the redundancy. So that's just a clarification, if you could speak to that.
Morgane, do you want to pick that one up?
Yeah, I can start an answer, and if you see any other points, please complete. We are at La Rochelle Business School also member of the PRME working group. I followed also teaching courses on that, on how to use, for instance, the sustainability mindset in lectures for students. So I think from my perspective, they are complementary, because here in the global movement, we really started by targeting the syllabus and the materials we can use for teaching, how we can change the courses and adapt it to the need for a sustainable future. And in the PRME, there are more principles, general principles and ideas to follow, or values to integrate. That's how I see it, but maybe you have other points of view on that.
And let me support what Morgane just said. Now that they're stopped doing our lawn outside with a big noisy machine, these things happen naturally. We've been a member of PRIME from the very beginning too, and Jonas Hurdle has been in Frank Werner's class regularly, and he was head of PRIME. And I actually did a session with the previous head of PRIME in Manila 10 years ago, roughly. So we're very supportive of PRIME. I think the difference is, our deans in this initiative have said, we are going to make this transformation in 3 years if we get $2.4 million. And they're still going to do it even though they're not going to get $2.4 million.
So, Professor, if you're going to talk about $2.4 million, why don't you just highlight quickly the MacArthur grant that we've been reaching out on, which is a part of it.
Thank you, James, I will. Let me finish that first thought, though, that the difference with PRIME for me, I think, is the dean has said we're going to do something in a time period, and it's going to be embarrassed if they don't do it. And we're seeing much more impact in a year that we've been at, less than a year that we've been involved in this, than in 5 or 6 years that we have 7 years we've been PRIME. Okay, so we're going down to bare metal in our courses. We're changing things fundamentally. The comment that James asked me to build on is this initiative came out of a 2016 application to the MacArthur Foundation for their $100 million competition, which we did not win, which would have given each school $2.4 million to transform its curriculum. That was basically Jesuit business schools, and it was supported by and led by the International Associations of Jesuit Business Schools and the colleagues in Jesuit Business and Education. In 2019, we made the same application, not driven by those two organizations, but involving Jesuit business schools and other business schools, as we are now involving other business schools. And the same thing, $2.4 million if you do it. And we knew we wouldn't get it, and we didn't, and we're not going to get it. But the key thing is that once the deans start thinking that way, oh, one more thing. In 2016, we started this conversation was, holy cow, is $2.4 million going to be enough? This is a big, big deal. How are we going to transform ourselves? In 2020, we're saying, why did we think it was so hard? This is a cakewalk. We know how to do it. We can do it. And the world now is deciding it has to do it. The business schools are deciding they can't any longer teach business as usual. Some of us like to say they're doing the work of the devil. So there's a big shift between this is a really difficult task to, hey, this is not nearly as difficult as we thought. Some schools will do it for some money they raise. Most schools will do it for nothing. And in 2022, we're putting together an application where 400 business schools will transform themselves for $240,000 instead of $2.4 million. And we're putting that together right now. And we'll go back to the MacArthur Foundation if they're still offering $100 million. And they probably won't give it to us, but we don't need it. The dirty little secret of the first application is, turns out we didn't need it. I see Nicole Jackson's hand is raised. Thank you, James.
Oh, sorry. It's still left over. I apologize for that. I'll lower my hand.
Okay. Well, I can keep talking then. No, I'm not going to do that. Go ahead. James.
Wait a minute. I can't lower my hand. Well, anyway, just ignore it.
Bruce, you had a comment?
Oh, just
Just as you started speaking, you froze.
piece. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to really move anything because that's part of why I'm shifting. But I teach in Asian universities. And so I've been working in Thailand, Myanmar. There's a consortium of about 30 universities in China around ecological civilization. So it's a very different background. And when you're, and Ray, when you're talking about non-democratic, that's pretty much what it is. Shift. The thing is that it's happening very quickly. There are significant changes that are occurring, particularly in China. A lot of countervailing forces, but at any rate, the point there is I think some of it is look forward to working with partnering up the Asian universities with appropriate Western universities, because I think a lot of times they would see themselves tend to be a little bit more alone on some of these rather than affiliated more broadly, and part of it's because of political systems.
Well, we're looking for new folks to join us.
All right.
Well, I'm just going to jump in. Bruce, can you type in the name of the consortium or what you just referenced, the name of it again? Can you type it into the chat?
We had an idea for a sort of thought exercise that Professor Stoner, you might speak to, and the idea that you say it better than I do.
Okay. Well, we were going to set it up as one possibility of your dean has decided to join this initiative and wants your ideas about how to get started. The second framing, which we could also have done, and we did something like that one with the Mid-Atlantic Organizational Behavior Teaching Conference in March. And we have a little exercise if you're curious about that, we can send you. We'll send you a bunch of stuff, by the way. But the other one is the dean has said, hey, I might want to join this. Would you go to that session at MOBTC and see what you can find out about this initiative and tell me if I should join it. So those are kinds of mindset you might think about now as you look up. James, should we show the video right now? You want to show the video?
We certainly can. Talk amongst yourselves for 2 seconds.
We've got 6 minutes left, and it's what, 2 minutes, right?
We've got 6 minutes left. So let me...
Jennifer, why don't you talk while James is working on that? Jennifer?
Yeah, my question is, what are you doing about the incentive systems in your institutions that impede change?
That is such a great question.
I feel this is the heart of the matter, and I'm really curious how you're taking up this incentive system and creating new incentive logics to get the outcomes we need.
Anybody could answer that from the group. My first reaction is that, to your response, and I'd like to go a lot more time when responding, is that the biggest resistance to change I'm aware of, and by the way, we have a lot of people that 10 years ago were not on our side at all, that are on our side now. But the biggest resistance barrier, I think, people don't know what to do. They don't know how to get started. They don't know how to teach a new course. So our answer to that is we do it. We show them how to do it by doing it ourselves and being willing to take risks in a course and make mistakes. I taught my fall course, undergraduate, which I discovered I was going to teach at the last minute. I threw away my Principles of Management course and started out as sustainability and ran sustainability through the whole course and reinvented it week by week as I went along. And so I have a model for other people. And we're coming out across the group of schools. We're coming out with, here's a marketing course you can have. Here's a finance course you can have. Here's an accounting course you can have that you can look at and see if you can do it at your school. There's a lot of other resistances. Last thing, we find in business schools that the rest of the faculty, which is looked down on business, is saying stuff like, holy cow, you all are finally getting it. You're finally waking up that what you've been doing is not the right thing, and they're welcoming us. So we have a lot of support around various departments of the university.
Can I jump in a little bit? Jennifer, I think that your question is really the great question. And I think the old model of activism where you collect like-minded folks and you grow enough like-minded folks until you can overturn the empire is a false approach, actually, because the leadership turns over so quickly in higher ed right now, faster than ever before. And a lot of this is pinned to a certain leader. And so I think I would just want to share a quick story. We actually brought a proposal for a master's degree in regenerative finance and economics, very intentionally related to this. And we did not get it approved by our faculty academic council. And largely because our administrative office was having back channel conversations that you won't be able to get your people jobs. And so I think part of this is, and it's always an and conversation, right? There needs to be multiple and conversations because they always come across as or conversations. And so we have to frame them, everything that we can, as an and conversation. You need to be activists amongst the group of faculty as fast as possible. You need to make your students' voices heard, right? I mean, because the irony is conversations in many institutions, especially financially struggling institutions, are one of how do we enroll people? And we can only enroll people if we tell them something they already know. And I think, to Ray's earlier point, I think the students know about this stuff and their values align with this stuff already, but somehow it's not showing up on the surveys to our admissions departments. And so as we go, we have to think not about the academic chain, we have to think about the non-academic side of the house. Almost more importantly, those folks need to be in the conversation in admissions so that they don't have a say in what your academic programming is. And then you just to create those groups of activists where the students are coming back, bring your alumni back. I will share with you, we were doing focus groups as we mapped all the curriculum in our business school with our students, with our alumni, and with people who hire our folks. And in my background in higher ed, when you ask a faculty member, what does a student need to know, do, and what kind of human do they need to be? The list of what they need to know is super long because nobody's going to give up any ground, right? The skills are increasingly getting larger over time because people are becoming more comfortable with the idea of skills like critical thinking. And the attributes of humanity is a fairly short list when you get all of the faculty in a room together. But when you talk to employers now, they are telling you quite the opposite direction. Please, please, please make sure you give me these foundations and make sure that knowledge is there. The list of skills is really long, and the list of humanity is really, really long for employers. They want more from us. And I think if you can bring that external voice to play, that part has a lot of weight as well.
So I'm going to jump in because I don't know, can we ask for another hour? I know we're not going to get it, but we're out of time. We've rammed through an hour quite quickly, and there's still a lot more to discuss. My answer to this was, this is the purpose of the initiative. It shows schools that are doing this, doing it successfully, that the students are finding places in the marketplace, and that the schools are becoming more successful by transitioning to a sustainable, regenerative future. I can't thank you enough, all of you, for being on the call today. It's been really inspiring.
Thank you. This is great.
Thank you.
Question is, can Team Humanity get it done for the planet? That's the question.
I'm not sure that team content is, though. I'm
not sure what is team
content, right? I mean, that's the, we've been teaching them all of this knowledge, which is more freely available than ever before in our histories. But we still somehow, I think Nicole raised this question about, what's the future of the university? Now, Clayton Christensen published that all the universities are going away some time ago, and he's incorrect, right? I think it might take things like a global pandemic to make some of that stuff come true. But we do have to reconsider the idea that if we are still selling knowledge, right, instead of knowledge in concert with how you act, in concert with what your values are, in concert with, a planet has to flourish or none of the rest of this is going to matter. We just have to do it all.
Ken, do you know the work of Nate Hagens?
Yeah.
You do? Okay. So you've seen his lectures online?
I have, actually.
Good.
Oh, could you write the name, please?
Yeah.
Got it.
So rather than me post up another slide, if you're interested in learning more, I have the emails that you've shared with us. If anybody hasn't and wants to still add that to the chat section, please do. Our website, www.globalmovement.net, will allow you to get access to all of us and access to the full sustainability reports. Those are posted and live and publicly accessible. And they show the first steps, or actually they show all the stuff that's already happening that we didn't know about because there was no coordinator to collate it. So there is a lot of stuff happening, and it's happening in very unexpected places. And I think that, so if this is a grassroots concept of how do we instill these ideas in a university setting, it's amazing to see what's already out there. Professor Stoner, why don't you put your microphone on and give us.
Can you show the video as we walk out?
let me see if I can get there. Let me see if I can get there. All right.
Well, thank you all for coming. We appreciate it muchly.
All right, here we go. Thank you again.
Thank you.
We are involved in a movement that we think might interest you greatly. To meet the needs of a sustainable, regenerating, and flourishing world, our initiative that we named the Global Movement is supporting this transformation. Shifting business schools away from the business-as-usual mindsets and practices that are destroying the planet's capacity to support our own and other species.
Global Movement seeks answers to 4 questions. What kinds of people will flourish on this planet without destroying it? How do we become those kinds of people? What transformations of our producing, distributing, and consuming systems are necessary? And how do we get there?
Our initiative is grounded in the belief that business schools are an excellent leverage point for answering these questions and bringing about these changes. Business schools possess missions intellectual and financial resources, sheer number, and the global reach and visibility to ignite the fire that will create a sustainable world and heal our broken planet.
Business schools have been known as incubators of change in the past and can continue to do so right now. Faster, cheaper, better, and sooner than any other level of society. Many schools have already begun to make the necessary changes, and you can join them. Schools that have signed up with the initiative have committed to becoming fully aligned with a sustainable world, and to do so in the next 3 years.
Please visit our website at globalmovement.net to learn more about this initiative and about a 2022 application we'll be making to the MacArthur Foundation. Thank you for your attention. Great. Thank you,
And thank you all for your time.
Thanks, everybody. Great job.
Great to meet you all. Bye.
Bye.